Hello there. How you doing, everybody? Here we are with issue 28. This is going to be the bonus issue where we talk about the magazine. Before we get into what's in this issue, and as you can see, we start off with the Fire Spray Pursuit Special Slave 1. Let's go ahead and go look at the details. All right, so here we are with the details, and this was for the bonus info on issue 28. So we did one video for that, and we worked on the corridor, and that was pretty much it. It did take an hour and a half of time, and so some of that time bled over from other things. But we had two captures in that process, 45 minutes off camera, and then 25 minutes of actual video time. We did glue or use 3 screws for that, and then we did 24 glued 24 parts on. We used some primers, some German gray, flat black, wood brown, leather brown, and gloss black. And I did something that I wish I would have done in some of the other ones, and that was with using the gloss black in the corridor on the floor, marking where they walked. So here was our video. Length was 25 minutes and 48 seconds. And here we can see that we had the first capture was 4 minutes and 27 seconds. The second capture was already over 40 minutes long. And again, like I said, we had 45 minutes of off camera time. Part of that, a lot of that was cleaning and that kind of stuff. So, so there you go with that. And then finally, we're up to 45 total videos for the building aspect. Nearly 24 hours of video time, over nearly 77 hours actually of total build time. And our average length is now below 32 minutes. So we're getting down to closer to where I would like to be. We have used 3 bottles of glue so far. We've glued 434 pieces and used 158 total screws. So we're moving up there, and we've used 173 micro brushes. So we're using them up, but that's what they're there for, right, everybody? So hopefully you guys enjoy that. Now let's go review what's in this magazine issue. Okay, we're back from those details. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that. Not getting a whole lot of feedback in that regard. So if you guys like it, let me know. If you don't like it, let me know. Otherwise, I'm just going to keep doing it. And, hey, somebody will watch it one way or the other. All right, so let's talk about the Fire Spray Pursuit Special Slave 1. So this one is rather interesting. It is called a Fire Spray class patrol ship, and it gave Jango Fett an edge, enabling him to build a fierce reputation. So let's go ahead and go through the specifications here. So it's from the Quad Systems Engineering, the Fire Spray class patrol and attack ship. Its speed was 1,000 kilometers per hour in atmosphere. Acceleration was at 2,500 Gs, which is pretty darn solid. Hyperdrive was a class 1, and the crew was 1 pilot and 2 co-pilots / gunner and navigators. Weapons had 2 twin blaster cannons, 2 laser cannons, a missile launcher, and mine layer. And of course, we've seen all of those in great effect when he was chasing Obi-Wan. And these are the specifications specifically for Slave 1. He didn't take a stock ship and fly it. So let's go ahead and go in through this. The Fire Spray class was already a nimble and deft vehicle, too powerful for civilian use, but although Jango Fett was attracted to the relative anonymity of the Fire Spray would give him, it was not heavily armed or armored enough for his unique and specific requirements. Fett embarked upon an upgrade program which would see the vessel refitted with superior firepower and shields, sensor packages, and cargo space. By the time he was through with his upgrades, the specifications of his vessel were virtually unrecognizable from the original factory version. The original history. So I'm going to go through this pretty detailed because I think people are going to like it, and also I think it's interesting myself. So that was built by Quat. It was initially intended for use by local militia and police forces. However, the design fell between two stools. I don't know why stools. Two schools would probably be more appropriate, but it's written by British, so what can you say? Sorry, Brits. Um, as it was overpowered for civilian usages, but underpowered for home defense purposes. Given that schism, the vessel was ushered off the assembly line after only a limited production run of just 6. So it's a pretty rare vehicle in and of itself. The Fire Spray would find a second life in the underworld as the personal transport of Jango Fett. Built to be tough and modular, Fett appreciated its ease of repair, and availability of parts. It wasn't long before the newly named Slave One was traveling the lanes, initially on the outer rim, and then increasingly operating further and further afield. Heavy customization. After acquiring the ship during a job on the prison asteroid of Ovo 4, Jango soon began tinkering and upgrading the stolen vessel to meet his ever-increasing needs. He ripped out the standard police prisoner cages, replacing them with wall cabinets designed to keep troublesome prisoners' movements inhibited. He reconfigured the cockpit, designed to allow for a co-pilot, his son Boba, who he was training to work alongside him, and installed functional crew quarters for the longer trips he and his son would undertake. The configuration of the ship was altered and tweaked, maximizing the limited space the 21.5-meter craft afforded Fett. Every cubic meter counted. He used a scavenged corridor segment from an abandoned Corellian starliner and fitted that to the aft of the cockpit area, adjusting the bunk area so he could accommodate both himself and Boba right next to the cockpit. Under the deck plates of the passenger hold lay a supergravity intruder trap. Any unwanted visitors would be subjected to the localized increase in gravity, rendering them immobile and subject to Fett's mercies. With the hyperdrive systems upgraded to a sizzling Class 1, Fett could traverse the lanes much faster than the majority of his competition, allowing him to accept jobs and beat the rest to the punch. While the factory version of the Fire Spray could more than hold its own in the realms of patrol duties, it was sorely outgunned in the arenas Jango Fett was used to operating in. As such, he began upgrading and tweaking Slave One's offensive systems, starting with the existing weaponry. The original tail cannons the Fire Spray boasted were upgraded to increase accuracy and variety of power, becoming a favorite weapon of young Boba. Uh, Concealed and adapted naval mine layers were installed to dissuade pursuing vessels and became an expensive but effective manner with which to lose enemy ships. For his more persistent competitors, concealed double torpedo tubes set to the front of the Slave One rained guided torpedoes out onto the enemy until only the luckiest of the most skilled opponents were able to avoid them. With this wide array of destruction at his fingertips, Jango Fett turned this unassuming mid-sized vessel into a heavy assault ship. So let's take a look at some of these little factoids here. So prison ship. With the depths of the vessel near where Jango and his son Boba piloted the ship lay the prisoner detention area. Initially laid out as a standard regulation police prisoner cage, Jango fitted shallower and narrower wall cabinets designed to keep his prey secure and compliant throughout their journey to wherever Fett was collecting his bounty. On occasion, those prisoners would be entirely silent, encased as they were in carbonite, with a reputation as a lethally efficient bounty hunter. Fett was used to securing maximum profits for minimum of fuss. Minimal crew. The Fire Spray was ideal for undermanned militia needing only one pilot. The ship could also carry 2 gunners, navigators, or co-pilots. On Slave One, Jango's clone son Boba filled these roles, most notably at his battle most notably at his battle in the rain with Obi-Wan Kenobi on Kamino. While Jango kept Kenobi occupied, Boba trained the ship's tail cannons on the Jedi and, despite missing, distracted him enough for his father to further the attack. So we already know what happened up here with the asteroid field, so we're not really going to mess with that. Let's go ahead and talk about the influences. Famously, the design of Slave One was said to be inspired by a lamp post that sat outside ILM's offices back in 1978. But one of the Empire Strikes Back art directors, Nilo Rodis Jamero, refuted this, saying that his drawing was actually based on a radar dish. Only later, when the shooting model of the vessel was being constructed by Warren Peterson, among others, did someone comment that the ship looked like a lamp, and that was how the legend was started. Slave One was also commonly said to resemble the Volkswagen Beetle, designed before the Second World War and made famous in the 1960s by the popular series of films starring Herbie. I suppose it does kind of look like a beetle with a big tail on it. Element of surprise. As Django's fearsome reputation grew, so did that of Slave One. By using short-lived fire spray as his vehicle of choice, Fett added yet another weapon to his arsenal, the element of surprise. Django was able to take this innocuous converted patrol ship into battle with vehicles far larger and more powerful than his own, where utilizing the upgrades he had installed on Slave One, he caught larger prey on the back foot. With tough shields, a broad range of defensive and offensive weapons, and devastating speed, he was able to achieve far more with his ship than its designers could have ever thought possible. So that was pretty cool. So the Geonosian Droid Foundries. So we probably won't spend a lot of time on this. Basically, this is just talking about uh, just the fact that the on Geonosia they built these droid factories that went hundreds of feet down into the core of the planet, and just levels upon levels of droids being manufactured there. Like here it says, the facilities were more than a kilometer deep. Compared to the galactic standards, even in the late Republic era, the machinery used was antiquated and slow, but a droid foundry was capable of mass producing vast numbers of automated soldiers. There you go. So there's that. So drone workers. Between shifts, the Geonosian drone workers rested in storage alcoves located in warm corridors just off the main factory floor. Geonosian drones don't actually sleep, but slow their breathing and reduce the circulation to their limbs and extremities. Despite their stillness, drones remain alert, so it took little to rouse them, which aided security in the foundries by having many eyes that were always watching. So there's that. And yeah, so I mean, it doesn't really go into a whole lot. So let's look at the inspiration here. This is our behind the scenes section on this. After pencil photography on Attack of the Clones finished, George Lucas felt that the film lacked pace and devised a new action sequence. The droid factory was filmed on a blue screen at London's Ealing Studios in March 2001, with little pre-visualization beyond conventional storyboards, although modelers, artists, and lighting teams from Industrial Light and Magic went to a car factory for inspiration and created some paintings below as guides for color and mood. The entire sequence was shot in just 4.5 hours, and the team was then largely left to their own devices to bring the scene to life, which proved a huge challenge, as was the first time they tackled a complete visual environment, including 3D props, scenery, and stand-in characters. So there you go. That's pretty crazy. Talks about the raw materials here. To supply the vast amounts of metal ore required to produce battle droids, the Geonosians mined iron-rich rock from two parallel asteroid belts that surrounded their planet. Although they were dangerous to navigate and costly to mine, these asteroid belts were able to provide all the raw materials required by the foundries, and using these resources reduced overall production costs. Once the metal ore was brought into the foundries, the rock was crushed, then melted by super lasers so that the different minerals it contained could be distributed around the factory. Any waste material was siphoned off for later disposal, and the rest was processed and purified. The molten metals were carried around in huge crucibles, uh, poured into many different molds, and pressed into shape by giant pounding forge hammers, depending on the components being created. The finished part might then require trimming or shaping by laser sharp cutting tools. Of course, we saw that when Anakin got his hand stuck and cut his lightsaber in half and all that kind of stuff. So, uh, yeah, nothing special. The part I thought that was mildly interesting from that was where they got the material. So that was kind of cool. Astromech. So this is something that I think might be pretty cool. So the secrets of spaceflight. Um, so basically, what this talks about is kind of the history of the Astromech. And the first one was the P2, and it proved a very effective shipboard tool and was sold exclusively to the Republic merchant fleet, whose officers put the new droid through its paces. The prototype proved the basic look of the Astromech line, with its barrel-chested body filled with an array of retractable manipulator arms. The P2 was given locomotion by a trio of wheeled legs, guided by a sensor-filled dome head, and communicated through a video display. So, yeah, that was kind of cool. And then, having been formed by the merger of Automa Galactica and Industrial Intelligence, as such, its droids development lab was well placed to try something completely different with the first of the R series Astromech line, the R1 series. The company recycled the black body shells of the Mark II reactor drones and built a droid similar size to the P2 around that. However, the earlier models' triple-wheeled legs were gone. The R1 moved on hidden treads, and it had none of the utilities of the P2. It did, however, have the ability to calculate the navigation coordinates for a single hyperspace jump. It also possessed the ability to communicate in droid speak. Many users found this series of computerized beeps and whistles a more acceptable form of communication than arguing with machines that talked back in Galactic Standard or Basic. The R1 was found mostly on large capital ships and freighters before the Clone Wars, and could still be found being peddled by second-hand droid dealers such as the Jawas on Tatooine as late as the Galactic Civil War. Now for all the cool stuff. The R2 series Astromech, so we know what series that is, right? The industrial automation would hit the sweet spot in Astromech design with the R2 series. The company turned its back on the massive shells that housed the P1 and R1 models and managed to combine the earlier droid's abilities in the miniaturized R2 models. The result was waist high to humanoids, barrel-shaped droid with a domed head and a trio of wheeled legs. No job is over this little guy's head, the company said at the production launch. The slogan turned out to be right, as the R2 unit was truly versatile, utilizing utility droid. It could be found performing onboard flight support in the droid socket of starfighters as diverse as the Naboo N1, Jedi Interceptor, the Incom Y-Wing, the X-Wing, where it had the intelligence to perform engine startup and pre-flight taxiing, as well as holding 10 sets of hyperspace coordinates in its memory. Aboard bigger starships, members of large complement of R2 series droids could be seen installing new wiring, polishing floors, and replacing blown fuses. R2 series came with a variety of standardized appendages that included repair arm to clean or cut out, seal electronic components, a gas torch, a computer interface arm for command and information exchange, a grasping arm to grab objects and adjust power routings in starfighters, power charge arm to recharge machinery and test circuitry, and a lubrication arm to lubricate things. The model also had arm extensions that could wield cutters, magnetic depolarizing leads, and welding tips, or be swapped out for other specialized extensions. R2 Astromechs were also outfitted with booster rockets, a hologram recorder and projector, a fire extinguisher, and life scan mesh. So there you go. The Millennium Falcon did not normally fly with an Astromech on board. I'm not going to read all this, but basically this talks about how one of the previous owners used a Astromech droid, an R3 droid brain, in the supercomputer, the ship's computer, which we already covered that in the what do they call it, the micro axial Rubicon navigation computer. So there is that. Yeah, so it also included the V5 transport, salvage units from the V5 transport, and the espionage slicer droid, which of course Han liked quite a bit. And then this gives a a synopsis of all the stuff that R2 did, and we know that because R2's a freaking awesome character. Let's go ahead. We'll talk about the droid co-pilot just real quick, and this is just kind of pointing out where the droid would be. So let me hold this up here, so you can kind of make out the little dot back behind there, and that's the droid. Up in front is the droid there. Off to the side is the droid there. Back behind here is a droid, and then, of course, back behind the canopy on the X-Wing is the droid. And this just kind of simulates or shows how that socket would work on an X-Wing anyway. So that's pretty cool. And let's go to the behind-the-scenes repair guy. Soon after the idea of R2-D2 formed in Star Wars, writer-director George Lucas's mind, he decided to start his story from the little droid's point of view. He had been inspired by director Akira Kurosawa's 1958 film The Hidden Fortress. The part that was the most interesting in The Hidden Fortress was that it was told from the point of view of the farmers and not from the point of view of the princess. Lucas said, "I liked that idea. It set me off on a very interesting course because it really did frame the movie in a very interesting way and altered the point of view of all three original trilogy movies. The Japanese movie starts with two bed-wrangled peasants bickering about their lot after a skirmish before quarreling and splitting up. It was up to concept artist Ralph McQuarrie to come up with the droid's look. Given the simplest of briefs, George Lucas said that R2-D2 should be a kind of repair guy, and that's what he comes up with. So I'm sure if you're big fans, you've probably seen this picture before. So this is one of the very first things Ralph McQuarrie did, and that's his first drawing of C-3PO, and that's R2-D2. So that was kind of the first thing that he did as far as conceptual artist stuff. So pretty cool. Deleted scenes, and this is behind the scenes here. The release of the Star Wars Digital Movie Collection for download in April 2015 included 5 deleted scenes from Return of the Jedi, including a section called The Battle of Endor, The Lost Rebels. This footage includes Rebel pilots who never made the final cut, plus additional action featuring the Millennium Falcon support crew and sequences showing areas inside the Falcon in much more detail than fans had ever seen before. And so if you've seen those, you can see them running through the different corridors. There was somebody that was up in the gun turrets and all that kind of stuff. So, well, there we go. That is the end of issue 28. And next time we'll be doing issue 29. So we'll have that ring, some of the framework, a rib, and some screws. So I would imagine we're just going to be doing this ring. What I'll probably do, if that's all we're doing, and maybe the ring and some framework or something, I don't know. But what I'll probably do is I'll probably build out the plate or the thing that was in the back of issue 27, where it talked about, it was in the back of issue 27, not this one, where it talked about putting that plastic thing on like a board or whatever. I got something to put it on, so I'm going to mount that down. I do have some tape here. I'm going to put that on it. Use this double-sided sticky tape. Holds up to 38 pounds. I don't think it's 38 pounds, but it'll hold it. And so I'm going to use that to put that on and hold that in place, so that way I can pick the whole thing up and I don't have to worry about shifting and all that kind of stuff. I don't want it to flex and bend and whatever. So that's what we're going to be working on next time. So with that, I want to say thank you all for watching. I hope that you enjoyed it. Drop me a comment if you have any thoughts. Drop me a comment even if you don't have any thoughts, you just want to ramble. Hit the like button if you liked it, and by all means, may the force be with you, always.